Okay, so in this final part, I want to explain the order in which I went about learning and what I did first and second and so on. So I remember very clearly the first day I went about learning Italian. I went on to this this guy's YouTube channel. What I did was I YouTubed. I didn't Google. I YouTubed because I like having that visual connection. I Googled basically. Why am I doing this? I Googled Italian basics, or I Googled Italian grammar basics. Very important. I wanted to start with the grammar. I did not want to start with vocab. Ciao, come stai? I don't want to learn how to say hi, how are you, greetings. That's not the most important thing to learn first for me. That comes later. Because if you don't have grammar, you can't make sentences. So the first thing I wanted to learn was the pronouns. How to say I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. So I found this guy's channel, TomTXXYTU.
Well, what's going on, guys? Welcome.
So he has a couple of, he doesn't have a lot of videos, but he has some basic Italian videos which I used. So I think the first video I saw was the present tense. It was the present tense video.
Voilà, raga, e ciao a tutti. Benvenuti in questo video. Hey everybody.
So what I learned in this video was how to conjugate the verb to be. Essere, io sono, tu sei, lui, lei, è. So I learned how to say I am, you are, we are, they are, all that. So this is a very important verb. More importantly than the verb, though, I learned the pronouns. So the pronouns are really important because those are the basis. It's the basis of all sentences, really. So after learning the pronouns, actually, I'll show you the notes I took. I don't have many notes. I only have about two to 4 pages of notes in all my learning. So I think the first thing I learned was here. So I learned these 3 verbs. Stare is the equivalent of the Spanish estar, avere is the equivalent of the French avoir, and essere is the equivalent of the Spanish ser, right? So right away you can see that having these two languages under my belt helped me. Here I have the conjugation for stare, which ended up not, actually no, I shouldn't say that it's a useful verb. When you want to say sto imparando, io sto parlando, the present progressive tense. So this was very easy for me to learn because the ando ending in Spanish, yo estoy hablando, is yo sto parlando. It's almost identical. And the verb parlare is the same as parler en français, in French, right? So it was almost trivial for me to learn that. So here are some more useful verbs I learned. You can see here I have the conjugations for very commonly used verbs. So I recommend always when learning a language to learn the 10 or 20 key verbs. So that's to be, to have, to do, to know, to go, also to need, to want. To want is very important. To come, to have to, like should, I should, those. So those are always very important. So I want to mention here that I didn't memorize all these conjugations right away. I just wrote them down and absorbed them. So maybe once I wrote this andare conjugation down, maybe I'd only retain vado, io vado, lui va, noi andiamo, e voi andate. Maybe I'd only retain that. I would forget how to say tu, like you go, or they're going. But that's not important. The important thing is I have the conjugation, I have the reference now, so I can go back to it whenever I want. And I know how to use this verb because I'm familiar with the grammar. What do I have here? Here I learned how to use the definite, indefinite articles. So il libro is el libro, this is Spanish, and this is Italian. I libri is los libros, the books, la porta, the door, le porte, las puertas, the doors, lo schermo, l'écran that's the screen, right? So I learned the difference between il, I, la, le, lo, gli, lo, gli. So Italian has a lot of articles which were kind of tricky to get used to. L'università, le università is plural. Notice it doesn't change. Il mio libro, the possessive, how to say my book. I miei libri, my books. La mia macchina, my car. I miei macchine, my cars. And then reflexive verbs. So here I have the reflexive pronouns. So normally, this is a pretty advanced topic for languages, for language learners, that is only usually taught at the end of the first year or in the beginning of the second year of language study. But I learned this on the first day because I already had Spanish and French, and I knew how to use the reflexive pronouns. So then I learned how to use the indirect object pronouns. Mi capisci? Do you understand me? Do you understand me? So this is also a pretty advanced concept for beginner language learners, but this came very easily to me because I already had the Spanish and French knowledge. Si, ti capisco. Yes, I understand you. So I learned that syntax very easily. Reflexive. Mi sveglio alle 7. Me despierto alla 7. It's identical to Spanish, so this was all almost trivial to me. Come te chiami? Como te llamas? So it's the same exact structure in Spanish. Gli piace mangiare. Le gusta comer. It's the same exact thing with this indirect object pronoun. The verb piacere, which means to please. So these are all my notes from the first day. So you can see what I learned on the first day. Oh, also important verb, to be able to. So I have the direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, conjugations of the most important verbs, present progressive tense, definite articles, reflexive pronouns, simple sentences with indirect object pronouns. So this was, I dated it. This is March 3rd. This is the first day I started. Useful words: why, because, where. Question words: who, when. Common nouns: woman, husband, father, mother, son. Languages: l'italiano, l'inglese, il francese. The names of languages which would be useful to me: il russo, Russian, lo spagnolo, Spanish, il tedesco, German. How to say something, how to say someone. So common verbs. More notes. So to give you an idea, this is what I did first. And I was able to conquer all of this grammar because I had Spanish and French. It was so easy for me because I had already done all this, and it was just a matter of learning the vocabulary. I didn't have to learn anything related to the grammar or syntax. Here I have simple sentences at the top. Sto imparando l'italiano. I am learning Italian, present progressive. Ho iniziato a imparare l'italiano. Past tense. This was very easy. This is just like French. J'ai commencé. No, actually, it's probably more like Spanish. He comenzado a aprender l'italiano. Voglio imparare l'italiano perché mi piace parlare diverse lingue. Same exact structure. I want to learn Italian because I like to speak different languages. Quiero aprender el italiano porque me gusta hablar diferentes lenguas. Exact same structure. Posso parlare 6 lingue, ma voglio imparare un'altra. Puedo hablar 6 lenguas, pero quiero aprender otra. Mi piace molto poter parlare diverse lingue. Me gusta mucho poder hablar diferentes lenguas. So these sentences are kind of funny, but they're just me practicing using different sentence structures with simple words and talking about language learning. So here I have like a small dialogue, right? And what I did was I boxed words that I didn't know how to say. So oggi ho cominciato a imparare l'italiano. Today I started to learn Italian. Non è molto difficult. It's not very hard, but I didn't know how to say hard, so I wrote it in Spanish and boxed it. For me, I didn't know how to say for me because I didn't know how to say already. No, I know Spanish and French. Now I want to write. I didn't know how to say write. I want to speak about everything. I didn't know how to say about everything that I did today. Even though I only started today, so I didn't know how to say even though I only. So I boxed those. Even though I only started today, I can speak. The grammar isn't too difficult, but I have to learn more. I am a student in a school. Yeah, so simple sentences. So here I made a list of words that I needed to know, more conjugations of simple words, simple verbs, useful words, useful nouns, before and after, adjectives, big, small, low, high, bigger, better, pejoratives, like superlatives. I learned all that. So these are, actually, I believe these are my only notes. Yeah, those are my only notes as far as grammar goes. Other grammar explanations, like I mentioned, I found on that website. Also, this was a very useful chart. This is a useful chart explaining pronouns in English, subject pronouns, and then all the different types of pronouns in Italian. So you have the subject pronouns, object pronouns, indirect object, after the pronouns that go after a preposition. Oh man, what did I do? And then possessive pronouns. So this chart was super useful. I referred to it very often using that interleaving thing where I didn't memorize, but I just used it as a reference, kept going back to it. Also, the grammar section of the Cortina course, which I have as a PDF. So this is the Cortina course. I didn't use the actual course, I used the grammar explanations in the back of the book. Very useful. And then eventually I was able to, also what I did was I listened to videos. I listened to Alberto's channel. I'll show you his channel right here.
Buonasera a tutti. Se questo è il primo video che...
So his channel was useful to develop comprehension. That wasn't my primary goal, but it was very useful because he gave me, he spoke not too fast, pretty naturally. He didn't dumb it down too much, and I was able to understand most of what he said. He spoke naturally with a good accent. He's a native, so that's of course good. And so this was my main source of audio comprehension training. And then eventually I moved on to reading. What I did was I wanted natural speech. I didn't want newspaper speech like in articles yet. So I took articles from Luca Lampariello's blog. So these are articles from his blog. I also downloaded PDFs because Alberto here, he has transcripts of whatever he says in his videos. So this is just a transcript. So I'd go through, right? Buongiorno a tutti. Allora, oggi volevo fare il primo podcast. So I'd read, and I'd underline all the words I don't know. So here, you can just see I've underlined, right? It's not too many words because, like I said, there's so many cognates that it was really easy. So so here I go with another article. And it's very important. So when I read, I try to understand the syntax of each sentence. If I don't understand the syntax, if I don't understand the structure, I don't understand the sentence. So this is Luca's articles. A couple more words that I don't know because he speaks. He's a native as well. He uses a little more sophisticated vocabulary, but also. So I'd say from one of these articles, I understood maybe about anywhere from 60 to 70 to 75%. This, that is without looking up words. This I probably understood anywhere from 70 to 90%. So this is what I did towards the end, just to expand my vocabulary and such. So those are the techniques I used. I found them very useful. Things I got out of this, of course I was exposed to a new language. Things I discovered, writing is super useful if you want to build fluency fast, because it lets you express yourself, and it lets you practice what you say, so you build fluency in speaking what you say, what you say normally. In the future, I plan to continue this. I don't want to limit myself using that I don't want to selectively learn anymore, because there's no point. And now I can do whatever I want. So I'm going to do more of this, article reading, blog reading. I'm going to do more listening, and through that I'll develop my speaking ability. And yeah, so now I have the fundamentals to